Good morning, everyone. It's Marcy, and I'm here with another weekly challenge from Pam at the Paper Outpost. And this week's challenge is going to be really easy and lots of fun. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I've got two pieces of parchment paper. This is ivory colored 24-pound parchment paper. And I'm going to make one piece using my Distress ink in Vintage Photo and the other using my Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo. While we're doing this challenge, which is a pretty easy challenge this week, I thought we'd play, since I have the same color in the two inks on this, for this color, be a good time to see, doing the same thing, how do they come out? So, gonna do that. Okay, so for this challenge, we're making some pretty writing papers. And basically, we're just gonna fold an envelope. So I'm gonna fold my two corners inward to create my envelope flap. And then I'm going to fold my bottom edge up to just shy of where those corners meet. And then I'm going to fold my flap down. And you've got an instant little tuck writing space. You can put a little paper clip on there. You can decorate it up however you want to. But you've got some nice writing space that you can tuck into your journal. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is everywhere I've got creases and then all around my edges, I'm going to distress. And I'm not going to have you sit here and watch me distress all of these. What I will do for each one of the little envelope tucks that we make, I'll just cut away while I'm distressing. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me do all that. But like I said, I'm going on both the inside and the outside. So there, I did that outside. Now I'll come on this side and do the same thing here. So I'm going to ink every crease and all my edges. And then I'll come right back. Okay, I've got all my edges and creases inked up. And as you can see, we already have a pretty little piece. You could add a little stamp or something right there. Maybe one on the inside. And you've got already a very pretty little vintagey looking piece to tuck into your journal for some added writing space. But we're not going to stop there. Now we're going to take our paper and we're going to crumple it up. Just imagine you're working in your journal and you get a piece of paper and you're trying to do something with it that you can't make it do, and you get angry and you just crumple up the piece of paper. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing here. And you'll see I'm pushing some of the corners down. I'm trying to get a good crinkle out of my paper. And then we're going to pull it back apart. Very gently. Don't force the pulling. Just kind of work around it. Because you don't want to tear your paper. And by default, just by crumpling it, you have compromised it a little bit. So I wouldn't just go in and force it apart. Just kind of gently let it come back apart. All right. Now we're going to take our Distress ink again, and this time we are, on this one again, we are using Distress ink, not the Distress oxide. And I'm going to dab it in, and I'm just going to lightly start going in all directions over my wrinkles. I'm trying to get those raised, the raised part of the wrinkles to be drawn out some. So I hope everybody is doing well and staying safe and healthy. All right, now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side. As I'm recording this, it's Monday, and so I just had the weekend at home with my husband, and he was ready for a haircut, and I kind of sort of tricked him because he was going to take the clippers and just basically buzz cut his head. But he told me he might need my help with the back of his head. And so we went out on the back porch. He had a chair and a towel, and okay. So now we've got a very nicely aged, I'll come back to the haircutting thing in a minute, a very nicely aged piece of writing paper. Now, honestly, for me, this paper, this is a 24-pound paper, and this is a little thicker than I would like for it to be for this technique, but I'll show you on another paper the difference that it makes having a little bit thinner paper. I certainly would not want to try to use a cardstock for this. But now you've got a really aged piece of paper. That side's a little darker. I think I'll actually fold mine the other way so that I've got that writing space on the inside. But taking a new piece of paper, and now it's got a very vintage worn look to it. Like I said, decorate it with a stamp, something flat. You don't want to bulk it up since it's intended to be a writing page, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to use my Distress Oxide. Just so we can see the difference in the way they look using the same color. But the Distress ink is dye-based and the oxide is dye and pigment-based. And it does make the color and the effect a little different. We all know, I mean, most of us know that the oxide reacts with water and you can get some really neat effects that way. But just using them as a distressing tool, how are they different? Okay, so I've got it folded. Again, I'm going to go back, ink all around it in the creases, and then I'll come back and we'll also finish the barber story. I haven't forgotten, I promise. Okay, I've gotten all my edges and creases inked up, so it's time to start crumpling again. So we're out on the back porch, husband sitting in a chair, or on the back deck, husband sitting in a chair with a towel, and his hair is really, really, really thick. He's got far thicker hair than I've got, and it had been growing for a while. So we decided, before we took the clippers to his hair, let's take some scissors and trim it up so that the clippers will handle a little easier. And so we did. So I had a comb and I had the scissors and I started clipping, and what he was expecting was that I was just going to go in and clip out chunks of his hair so that we could take the clippers and then just buzz cutting. But that ended up not happening. I do not cut hair. I do not. But I thought, okay, he will do the buzz cut because he's desperate for a haircut. But he had already said that isn't really what he wanted, but didn't know what else to do, blah, 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 blah. So since I had him basically at my mercy, I just went through with the scissors and cut his hair. And I was actually surprised. My thought was, okay, I don't know how this is going to do because, yes, I'm recrumpling because I'm trying to get some good creases. Don't know how this is going to do, but worst case scenario, we go in and we buzz cut it. And I was actually, we were very pleased. It's not the best haircut a person could ever hope for, but we were then able to use just the clippers just to kind of clean it up a little bit, as opposed to him having to go buzz cut. So, but I had to trick him to do it. He thought I was just going to cut out clumps of hair, you know, basically not worry about it, not think about it. Just get it shortened so that we could go in with the clippers and clip it all off. But I tricked him. Okay, now I'm going to use the Distress Oxide and do the same. Thing. got to remind myself not to let it get too dark, because I do still want it to be a writing surface. Okay. I've got it inked. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. Now, remember with the oxide, it does react with water. And what that means is, like it or not, it will also react with the moisture and oils on your skin. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got, well, I'm sure you can. I'm getting, in flattening out my papers, I'm getting some ink on my hands. Now you can get that with the distress ink too, but not to the same degree. All right. Now let's find our folds again. Okay, so here you've got it. The top one is with the Distress Oxide, and the bottom one is with the Distress Ink. So you can see both Vintage Photo, but you can see the Vintage Photo is more translucent, I guess. It's a subtler effect, where the Oxide is more there, more in your face, less translucent. I think they both have their places. I've gotten to, though, where I actually really kind of like my Distress Oxides. Not for everything. But like on this, with the Distress Ink, yes, you've still got the rubbing over the edges and stuff, but it's harder to really get those creases pulled out of your image. And anyway, so I just thought that would be kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm going to set both of those aside and move on to, let's say, okay, so don't have any parchment paper. Right now, supplies are somewhat limited. So here I found some packing paper from an Amazon box. I think I'm gonna do the same thing with it. I'm just gonna make some pretty or interesting crumpled writing paper with the, now this one's going to be big. probably going to want to cut that down a little bit. I think what I will do on this one is put some coffee dyed paper. How big is that? That's about 12 inches long. Let's just go with it. We're just playing. So I'm going to tear the holes off. I'm going to tear these edges. Oh, hold the ruler. Still didn't hold the ruler. I am not very good at using this tear ruler. All right. I think I will take that down just a little bit. Okay, just for speed, I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac to put this paper down. Fabri-Tac for this is absolutely not necessary. I'm just using it here for, I should have distressed that first. I goofed. Let's see if we can salvage it a little bit. Fortunately, I didn't glue right up to the edges, and Fabri-Tac does give you a short time to work with it. So we're just going to go with the goof. That's one thing about making these videos is I am learning how to basically how to go with a goof. Because sometimes that is the only option. Okay. So, now I'm going to fold down my envelope flat. Fold up my bottom edge. Okay, and here you can see my point is below my edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here. And I'm going to adjust my flaps. I did not do that well. All right. So now I adjusted my flap, so I no longer have a point there, but it's also no longer hanging down to the edge. Now this one's big enough, I would never make a journal that is, well, I shouldn't say never. It's about 7.5 inches wide. So for me, this would go into a journal clipped in like this. Okay. So I'm going to ink all my edges and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back and I've inked my creases and my edges. Now, as you can see, because I'm using this brown packing paper, the vintage photo is not showing up great, and I am using the oxide again. But I think I'm actually really going to like the way this comes out. Okay, so we're going to crinkle. And we're going to, again, gently pull it back apart. Okay, now I'm going to start on the writing side, but I'm going to see how far I can get without re-inking my dauber. I just want to go over the writing side. Yeah, see, this paper being thinner created a lot more harsh peaks and valleys. So we're getting a lot more texture out of that. And that's really all I want on my writing side. So, well, I say that. On the writing part, I'll come around the edges and go a little darker. All right, flip that over. I'm actually kind of glad I didn't go or try or have an oxide that was darker. I really like the effect on this because it's subtle enough to show, but to give it kind of a leathery look to it. All right, I'm going to do one more thing just for the heck of it. I am using Distress Oxide, so I've got my bottle of water, and I'm going to spritz this. Now, I'm going to let that sit and dry. I don't know how much of a reaction I will get. And I may need to blot it a little bit. But I'm going to let that dry, and then I will come back and we will finish this up. Okay, I'm putting my water away so I don't mess with it anymore. All right, as soon as this is dry, I'll come back and we'll finish this up. Okay, I'm back, and my paper is all dry. You can kind of see how I spread it on this side and it went kind of dusty looking, which I kind of like on this. I did the same thing on this one. I just sprayed this section and left the rest alone. And I don't see as big a difference in that. So part of it may depend on paper type, maybe the amount I sprayed it. I'm not sure. I mean, I do see some difference, but it may just be that the sort of dustiness shows up more on that. Anyway, so I'm going to finish this up real quick. And to do that, I love the rustic, tattered look of this. Okay. So that will be the top. I'm going to put some book pages under here to give me a little padding. I've got some stamps. They are Bo Bunny Sweet Shop. And so I think what I will do, I've got one that is like the name and address of the sweet shop. So I think I want to put that right there on that flap. And I'm going to use my Ranger Archival ink in coffee. Alright, so push that down. Alright, I like that. Okay, and then I think what I will do on the inside is take this little jar of candies and stamp it on the inside, like right in that corner. Don't want to take up a lot of the writing space, but I am going to borrow a little bit of it. Okay. And as a final touch, I pulled out a few of my Prismacolor colored pencils. And I think I will add just a little bit of color to these candy pieces. Since everything is pretty brown, I thought it might be nice to just have a little pop of color. But I'm also coloring it very lightly because I don't want it to be, since everything else is so tattered and rustic looking, I don't want it to be bright and vibrant. So I'm just basically skimming over the candy pieces. Just a hint of color there. And I think that's all I'm going to do to that piece. And I've got a paper clip here. It's just one of my yo-yo flowers that I put onto a paper clip. And there we go. And then that can use this paper clip to clip it to a page. And that's it. I'm not even right now going to decorate the parchment ones. I actually really like this. This packing paper is so thin, and then by the time we crinkled it, it just has a wonderful old, aged feel to the whole thing. So, and even my yo-yo, I tried to pick out some more vintage, one that had more of a vintagey feel to it. So just sort of that tattered candy shop. And I thought the sweet shop was perfect because you might receive your little penny candies in a paper bag like that. So, all right. So that's it for now. Everyone take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Be healthy. Happy crafting. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.